I worked for 10 years, 10 long years, saving every penny I could, dreaming of one day owning my own home. But when the moment finally came, when I was just a few weeks away from signing the papers, my parents did something I never imagined. They gave my down payment to my brother. Before I continue, if you love intense real-life revenge and betrayal stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next shocking story. Ever since I was 19, I had one dream: to buy a house of my own. Not a mansion, not something fancy, just a small, peaceful home where I could finally feel safe. My family wasn't rich. My father was a mechanic, my mother worked as a school clerk. We lived paycheck to paycheck, but I learned early how to save. I got my first job as a cashier, then slowly worked my way up to an office assistant. Every month, I put a small amount aside. Sometimes it was just a few hundred, sometimes less. But I never missed a single month. My parents were proud, or at least I thought they were. My father used to say, "You're the responsible one in the family. You'll go far." My mother would smile and nod. "You'll make us proud, sweetheart." Those words kept me going through all the nights I skipped dinners out, all the birthdays I celebrated with cheap cake, all the clothes I never bought. Because one day I told myself, I'll finally have my home. By the time I was 29, I had saved enough for a decent down payment. I found a small 2-bedroom house just outside the city, old but full of charm, a small garden, a quiet neighborhood. It felt perfect. When I called my parents to tell them, they sounded thrilled. At least, that's what I thought. Mom said, "Oh, darling, we're so happy for you." Dad said, "You deserve it after all your hard work." We even planned to visit the house together that weekend. I was so excited I could barely sleep. I imagined where I'd place my furniture, how I'd decorate the rooms, how peaceful mornings would feel in my own home. Now, before I go on, you need to understand something about my family. I have one younger brother, Adam. He's 2 years younger than me, and ever since we were kids, my parents always treated him differently. When I brought home good grades, they'd say, "Nice job." When Adam barely passed, they'd throw him a small celebration because he tried. When I got my first job, they said, "Be careful with your money." When Adam quit his job after 2 months, they said, "It's okay, he'll find something better." You get the idea. Adam could do no wrong. But I didn't mind much growing up. I loved him. He was my brother. And deep down, I always thought my parents loved us equally, even if they showed it differently. I was wrong. It was a Friday morning when I got a call from my mom. Her voice was shaky. "Sweetheart, can you come home tonight? There's something important we need to talk about." My heart sank. I thought something terrible had happened. When I got home, the 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and Adam, were sitting in the living room. They looked nervous. Dad cleared his throat. "We need to tell you something." Mom reached for my hand. "Please listen before you get upset." I had no idea what was coming. Then Mom said the words that shattered me. "Your father and we had to give the money from your savings account to Adam." For a few seconds, I couldn't even process what she said. I blinked, trying to understand. "What do you mean, my savings account? That money was for my house." Dad sighed. "We know. But Adam was in a tough situation. He needed help with the down payment for his new apartment." I felt like the air had been punched out of my chest. "Wait," I said, shaking my head. "You took my house money and gave it to him?" Adam wouldn't even look at me. Mom said softly, "He promised he'd pay you back soon." I laughed, bitterly. "Pay me back? He doesn't even have a job." Dad raised his voice. "Watch your tone. He's your brother. We're family. You should understand." That word, family, felt like poison. Because if we were truly family, why was I the only one expected to sacrifice? I asked how they even had access to the account, and that's when I learned the truth. When I first opened the savings account years ago, my mother had convinced me to make it a joint one. Just in case something happens, she said. I never imagined she'd actually use it. I sat there, frozen, as she explained how they withdrew nearly all of it. Every year of hard work, gone in one decision I never agreed to. I couldn't even speak. Finally, I managed to whisper, "You had no right." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We're sorry, honey. But Adam really needed it. You're doing so well. We thought you'd understand." That line, "You're doing so well." It echoed in my head over and over. That's how they justified it. Because I was responsible, because I worked hard, they thought it was okay to take from me to give to him. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out. I didn't say a word. I just needed to get away. My entire body was shaking. When I got home that night, I cried harder than I ever had before. Not just because of the money, but because the people I trusted most had betrayed me in a way I never saw coming. I kept thinking, how could they? How could my own parents do that to me? That night, I made a silent promise. They took my savings, but they wouldn't take my dignity. I didn't know how yet, but one day I would make them understand the pain they caused. The next few days felt like a blur. I went to work, smiled when I had to, but inside I was numb. Every time my phone buzzed, I ignored it. My parents called again and again, and even Adam texted me once saying, "I'll pay you back soon, don't be mad." Don't be mad. He had no idea what he'd taken from me. It wasn't just money. It was years of self-control, sacrifice, and silent endurance. It was my dream, my independence, my peace. For the next few weeks, I didn't visit home. My parents eventually stopped calling, maybe out of guilt, or maybe because they thought I'd just get over it. But I didn't. Something inside me had changed. I was done being the quiet, responsible one. One night, I sat down and started going through all my financial documents. The thought of starting over felt unbearable, but I had to do it. I created a new savings account, this time only in my name. I set up automatic deposits again and promised myself one thing. I would buy that house, no matter how long it took. And when I did, I wouldn't tell them. Months passed. Slowly, I began rebuilding my savings. I picked up extra freelance work, worked late hours, and cut every unnecessary expense. Every time I felt tired, I reminded myself of that night in the living room, of the shock, the betrayal, the look on Adam's face as he avoided my eyes. That memory fueled me. Then, about a year later, my mom showed up at my workplace without warning. She looked older, worn out. She said softly, "Can we talk?" I agreed, mostly because I wanted closure. We sat at a small cafe near my office. She said, "Adam's having trouble paying the loan for his apartment. He's behind on payments and your father and I can't help him anymore. He promised he'd pay you back, but he's really struggling." I looked at her, speechless. They took everything from me for him, and now they wanted sympathy? I asked, "So what are you trying to say, Mom?" She hesitated. Maybe you could help him, just for a while." I laughed out loud. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was disbelief. "Help him? You took my money, gave it to him, and now you want me to help him again?" Her eyes welled up. "Please, sweetheart. He's your brother." That word again. Brother. As if it excused everything. As if blood meant loyalty, no matter how much pain they caused. I leaned forward and said quietly, "He stopped being my brother the day you took my dream and handed it to him. You chose your favorite, Mom. You made it clear who mattered more." She started crying, whispering, "We didn't mean to hurt you." I stood up. "You didn't mean to, but you did. And I'm not the one who's going to fix it." That was the last time I saw her for a long time. Months passed again. I focused only on work and rebuilding my life. I didn't visit home for holidays, didn't attend birthdays. I was tired of pretending we were a family. Then one afternoon, I got a call from my aunt. She said, "Your parents are worried sick. Things have been falling apart since Adam lost the apartment." Lost the apartment? I repeated. Apparently, Adam had stopped paying altogether. The bank repossessed it. He moved back in with my parents, jobless and bitter. My parents had spent their retirement savings trying to cover his debts. The house they were living in was now at risk. I should have felt pity, but all I felt was cold silence. This was the same family that didn't think twice before taking everything I'd worked for. Now they were losing everything they'd built for him. Still, I didn't celebrate. I wasn't cruel. I just didn't feel anything. 2 years later, I finally did it. I bought a house. Not the same one I'd planned years ago, but better, bigger, brighter, in a peaceful neighborhood where I could hear the wind in the trees every morning. I remember standing in the empty living room on the day I moved in. The air smelled of new paint and quiet victory. I had done it. Alone. Without help. Without family. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Adam. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Then, one afternoon, a familiar voice called from outside my gate. I looked out and saw my father. His hair had turned almost white. He looked frail, defeated. I opened the gate slowly. "Dad?" He smiled weakly. "So it's true. You bought a house." I nodded. He looked around quietly. "It's beautiful." We stood there in silence for a moment. Then he said, "I came to say sorry." My chest tightened. For years, I had imagined that apology. But when it finally came, I didn't feel relief, just sadness. He said softly, "We made a mistake. We thought we were helping your brother, but we destroyed your trust. And now, we lost both of you." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I looked at him, this man who once called me the responsible one, now standing before me, broken by the same favoritism that tore us apart. I finally said, "I forgive you, Dad, but I can't forget." He nodded. "I don't expect you to. Just promise me you'll live well, that all your sacrifices were worth something." He turned to leave, and I let him. Watching him walk away felt like closing the last chapter of a painful book. That night, as I sat in my new living room, I realized something. Revenge isn't always about getting even. Sometimes, the best revenge is rebuilding what they destroyed and showing them you can rise from it. I didn't need to destroy anyone. Life had already done that for me. What I did need was peace, and for the first time, sitting in my own home, I finally had it. Weeks passed after my father's visit. I didn't reach out to them, and they didn't call either. The silence between us felt heavy, but peaceful at the same time. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel controlled by guilt or family pressure. I had my house, my independence, and my freedom. But one evening, as I was watering the small plants on my porch, I saw a familiar car pull up outside. It was Adam. I froze. Part of me wanted to turn away, go inside, and pretend I wasn't home. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the gate. He stepped out, looking very different from the last time I'd seen him. He'd lost weight, his clothes looked worn out, and his usual cocky expression was gone. He looked tired. "Hey," he said quietly. I didn't answer. I just looked at him, waiting for him to speak. He sighed. "I know I have no right to be here, but I needed to say sorry." I stayed silent. He continued, "I messed up. Mom and Dad told me what they did, and honestly, I was too selfish to understand how badly it hurt you. I thought you'd forgive me like always." He laughed weakly. "But you didn't. And maybe that's what I needed." I could see genuine regret in his eyes, but part of me still didn't trust it. So why now? I asked. He looked down. Because I lost everything. The apartment, my job, even my friends. And then Mom got sick. Dad's been working part-time just to pay for her medicine. I thought maybe you should know. My heart sank a little at that. Mom was sick? He nodded. She's been in and out of the hospital. It's bad. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Anger, guilt, pity. Everything clashed inside me. After everything she had done, part of me wanted to stay distant, but another part still cared. I took a deep breath. Does she know you're here? He shook his head. No, she doesn't expect anything from you. None of us do. I thought about it for a long moment, then said, Tell her I'll visit. That evening, I drove to my parents' home, the same one I had left in tears years ago. It looked smaller now, almost lifeless. When I stepped inside, I found Mom lying on the couch, a blanket over her. Dad sat beside her, holding her hand. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Tears filled them instantly. You came, she whispered. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I did. She started crying. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I was blind. I thought I was helping one child, but I ended up losing both. I knelt beside her. You hurt me, Mom, more than you know. But I don't want to hate you anymore. Her hands trembled as she reached for mine. You don't have to forgive me. Just knowing you came is enough. That night, I stayed for dinner. The house felt heavy with memories. The laughter, the fights, the years of love mixed with pain. But beneath it all, there was something new. Understanding. Over the next few months, I started visiting them regularly. Slowly, things began to heal. Adam got a new job, Dad retired fully, and Mom's health stabilized. Still, I never forgot what had happened. I couldn't. But I learned to accept it. People make choices, sometimes out of love, sometimes out of weakness, and sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what truly matters. One weekend, I invited them all to my house for dinner. They were hesitant at first, but they came. When they walked in, they were quiet, staring around at the space I'd built for myself. Dad smiled. You really did it. All by yourself. I smiled back. Yeah. And I'm proud of it. Mom looked around, her eyes shining with pride and guilt mixed together. It's beautiful, she said softly. Adam said, You made it further than any of us. You deserve all of it. That night, for the first time in years, we had dinner as a family. No fights, no favoritism, just quiet, honest connection. After they left, I sat by the window, looking out at the garden. The same garden I once dreamed of when I was 19, counting coins in a jar, hoping one day I'd have something of my own. It had taken betrayal, heartbreak, and years of rebuilding to get here. But I made it. And as strange as it sounds, I was grateful, not for what they did, but for what it taught me. Because sometimes, pain is the only thing strong enough to show you who you really are. I realized revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about rising above the hurt, about showing them that no one could take away my worth, my strength, or my dream. In the end, I didn't destroy anyone. I just built myself back stronger. And that was my true revenge.